Hello, 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 everyone out there, dealers, operators, fixed ops, BDC managers, GSM sales managers. Welcome to the Mission Debrief with your friends here at Call Team 6, Special Ops for Car Dealers, remote BDC solution for dealerships all across the country. Welcome to episode 4 Delta, where we've got some special guest today.
Yes.
And a special treat for all the viewers out there, where we bring you concise takeaways that address some of the biggest challenges that dealerships are facing out there today with the evolving environment and landscape out there that is becoming increasingly more challenging to convert leads, to convert deals, and to keep customers and provide them with the type of quality experience that they would prefer. So with me again, everyone, is right here with me, our CEO, Ken Kingstad, the original co-creator of the original BDC model for automobile dealerships, going all the way back to the early 90s. And then also our COO, joining remotely this time, because he's been on the road so much, from North Carolina, is our COO, Ryan Mays. Ryan, how's it going?
It's good. I'm keeping the bunker company here in the secret bunker here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
I love
Keeping it. Yep.
Great news. Okay. And then, Ken, we
Yes.
appreciated all of your insight on the last episode. It was
Good
a
stuff.
big treat.
Good
And
stuff.
we're getting lots of great feedback from it as well, because you bring the energy, you bring the experience, and then you also bring the game plan to dealers out there in your consulting and training business that you now utilize to build what we believe is a killer team of associates, all the U.S.-based agents out there from across the country. And then obviously, we're a very technologically advanced company as well, with the AI supplementing all the effort from the humans out there.
Well, I'll just say this to you, Jeff, and I don't want to get long-winded, but I will just say that when we first started the BDC back in '87 and started marketing it in '92, I will just say for all these years I've been just running around the country, as you can imagine, like a road warrior. Train, can come back. Train, can come back. And living on the road literally 15, 20 days out of the month for all those years. Incredible. But anyway, I learned so much, Jeff, and I never really started our own BDC because in my mind, until you had technology, you couldn't scale it. The average dealership, sales BDC agent can only manage about 150, 200 leads max.
Mm-hmm.
And you're getting hundreds of thousands of leads every single month collectively across the United States. How do you manage that without having a fleet of people? You just can't. So that's where technology, that's where AI comes in. That's where text-first technology and thoughts all roll together into the package of really getting your unfair share of conversions. And so I say that to say one thing is that, we train every single day, best practices that I've learned over the past, 30 plus years. Our agents are assassins, thus Call Team 6. That's why we developed the name. I know you came up with it. That was an amazing name, Jeff. But I think, just that's the philosophy that we live by here is no lead left behind. And we are like tenacious when it comes to chasing the lead. 180 full days, of going after a lead. And we're going to talk more about why it's getting to be a longer cycle. Customers are shopping and educating themselves more so. Mm-hmm. But that's the backstory, the kind of the prequel behind Call Team 6 is, it got to the point where it didn't want to travel anymore, really, quite frankly. And if you could offload it to a company that, killed it for you, right, and did a great job, and actually got you better results than in-house.
Sales and service. Why would you not outsource it and let someone else have the HR headaches, the training headaches, and all the other things that go along with running a BDC internally? So a little bit, I know I just felt it led to kind of throw that out there. But I think a lot of people wonder why we started. It wasn't because we haven't got the experience. It's just a matter of we have the experience, but we just want to make it easier for our partners to sell more cars and take that burden off their plate and let them focus on one thing, which is to sell cars, press the flesh, and make things happen in the store day to day. Well, that's what is one of the most exciting things about being a dealer. We're partners in dealerships too, as it happens, and also it's exciting to me in that the technology now, and we're going to talk about this, is actually starting to catch up to start to provide the support systems for the level of customer service that we've always wanted to be able to provide, particularly whenever it comes to our owner base, not just prospects who have never done business with us before. So in my view, challenging times these days. We're paying attention to more conversions and better ways to convert leads because they're very expensive these days. But also, it's exciting times because I think that we're on the precipice, and our guest will be talking about that a lot here over the next 30 minutes or so. Really excited to bring him on, and there are exciting times whenever it comes to we're going to actually be able to execute on the things we've always wanted to be able to execute on with the advent of the technology that's coming. And I say that as a dealer, and I'm sure a lot of other general managers out there are all shaking their heads saying, yeah, if you're paying attention to that, and if that is one of your goals, which we always want to own our market, and whatever market we're in, we kind of have that track record, among all three of us. So. We're very excited to have everybody here, coming to you from our studios in the Meisner Park area, Boca Raton, South Florida. And so we're going to get into the first part of the broadcast here, which is the Mission Launch and Field Report, right after we mention our sponsors, which is Podcast Junkies, a great company to deal with if you want to get maximum reach and maximum production value for any particular podcast and help you develop your audience, and a complete resource for all of that. And then also, who we got with us. Let's bring Ryan in to talk about who our special guest is today, because we haven't brought him on yet.
Yeah.
He's kind of lying in wait there
Yes.
in Charlotte.
Thomas, right?
I call him the OG DCG.
I love that one.
Yeah, you can't.
I'm amazed I pulled that off because I am dyslexic. So
Just waiting for producer Daniel to give me a drum roll in the background. That's what I'm waiting on. That's what we're waiting on here.
There you go.
Yeah, that is the one, the only, and also today's sponsor, Thomas, the digital car guy,
Thank you.
sporting over 30
Hey.
years
All right.
in
there he is.
the car business. There he is.
Nice.
40.
years.
40
Oh my-
years. Oh my gosh.
It's amazing. You
Yeah.
don't look like you're more than 30 years old yourself. Where'd that come from? I want what you're having.
Yes.
This guy has forgotten more than I will ever learn, as the phrase goes. So we're excited to have you here because one of the things for the audience out there is as Thomas speaks to literally hundreds of dealerships, right? So
Every hour.
We want you we want you guys out there in the audience to be able to hear from someone who has boots on the ground, ear to the ground, talking to different stores, different dealer owners, general managers, sales managers, salespeople. I mean, you name it, from all across the country. So you're going to get a perspective, a broad perspective, but he can drill down into the details. That's what he does. So that's what we're excited here before. And Ken and Thomas, I know you guys had a brief conversation about some really hot topics. So I'll kick it back over to you in just a second. But Thomas, please fill in for the audience anything that I left out about yourself. I know you also have a recruiting venture that's going off now that I know you're going to get into a little bit. But whatever I missed, please fill the audience in.
And welcome, by the way. We appreciate your time.
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
No, hey, it's pleasure's all mine to be here. With these gentlemen, and I always say, hey, that 40 years, but I met my wife selling Pontiacs, and that kind of lays the groundwork. And still married 37 years later, she's been still putting up with me.
Chicks dig Pontiacs, man.
Yeah, Arrows, especially. But
PTO.
yeah, no, hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and it's the pleasure's really mine to be able to sit with you guys. We talk usually weekly and in our day-to-day businesses, but hey, the car business has been a wonderful industry for me and my family, and I can't thank the industry enough. And at this point in my career, I like to give back a little bit. And you mentioned the recruiting aspect. I started doing that and putting some focus on it only because a dealer asked me, hey, can you help me find some people? And I did some searching as far as, and you mentioned technology today. Well, I happened to stumble across a company that is helping me do this recruiting, and it not only does the software kind of help guide me a little bit, with people, but it helps me match the person to the job, not
Mhm.
just a personality profile where I know, oh, okay, this one's a high I or high D, or, and generally you know, those types are managers and drivers and or salespeople.
The Sonic
But
model.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
From
it
30 years
literally,
ago.
hey, you can, this person can do the job based on the assessment. So that's what I've been up to here lately, and um, really making an impact not only on the dealerships but on people's lives. And that's what,
Yeah.
let's face it, that's what really gets us up in the morning when we take those uh, people in under our wing and turn them into superstars, whether it be a call team 6 member or a member of another dealership.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a massive pain point. Going back to what we talked about earlier, is hiring. And trying to find the time. And really there's an art to it. And I always say that you should hire slow, fire fast. I know it sounds kind of contradictory, but you want to invest in those kinds of models that can be very predictive, so you don't make those mistakes. These are very costly mistakes. The old days of, can you fog a mirror? All right, we need 3 more guys. Let's get 3 more people hired. And we hired those 3, and then those end up being, we talked about it last time, the bottom 20%, and we just churn through them. And instead of slowing down, and doing our due diligence homework and figure out, like, what does a good salesperson look like? What is the profile of our 20 car guy or 25 car a month person? And then, how do we back into that? And in terms of hiring the right people, it's a huge resource, and I think that, that's all part of the slowing down to speed up mindset. I think that great companies do. I mean, good, you say good to great, and going back to that model again, great companies do, maybe good ones don't.
We, everybody wants to try to achieve a deep bench because you'd rather be able to plug and play. It's not, I can say firsthand, unfortunately, it's not exactly as dealership personnel, it's not necessarily our strong suit. And you and I touched on this in our first episode, where that goes into the the thought process of what we're experiencing now at a post-COVID world with the Great Resignation, and then with the dwindling resources and talent pool that is being found out there in the hiring community. And I'm sure Thomas, can expound more on that. But we touched on that,
Yeah.
and it's something that is a real issue. We hope that we can supplement the people's time and energy and resources with some technology, but it's still the car business, and I'm sure Thomas would reiterate this, that it's still a handshake business at some point in time. So that's why you have to keep developing the human element of that. So since we're talking about, Thomas, the Intel report, the mission launch and Intel field report, a portion of the program, regarding that, because let's say I'm a GM out there, you're having conversations with guys who sit in my chair all the time. What type of resources are you able to that you're seeing out there? What are you hearing from them, and then what type of resources? Like, if I'm a GM watching right now, what's a good takeaway that you could recommend for me to try to deepen that talent pool out there, or a resource that you could recommend that I could deploy fairly quickly, because I'm busy doing other things all the time, and I'm not necessarily looking to build that bench, because I'm always involved in the urgent and immediate quadrant of my time space, right?
Yeah, no, it's funny you mentioned that quadrant. And the first thing I ask a lot of questions, and one of the things I always keep in the back of my mind when I'm talking to dealers is, first and foremost, what who would I need as a general manager that could help me in my day to day? Someone that could, like you're saying about the recruiting end, pick up the mantle and run with it. because one of the things I ask is, okay, what is your process for hiring someone? Where does the recruiting? What is there a process? Now I've hired this person. What happens next? Are they new in the car business? Because let's face it, when they're new in the car business, we have a unique language in the car business. We have terms and things that we say, hey, go catch that up. Are they upside down?
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So we tend to gravitate toward that as probably more of a familiar space, even though that's not necessarily the most successful profile to go after these days. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, well, not only that, most dealerships go after that new person because they want to train them their way.
I see.
Uh, they don't necessarily go after the retreads, because if someone
There's a phrase, there's a term, and
there's one right
Speaking of one,
Yeah.
speaking of one,
retreads and
we'll have a glossary at the end of the program for everybody if you're watching, you're not in the car business.
well, it's funny you say that because I came up with literally a glossary of terms that we use, and I've had multiple sales managers take it and use it for a sales meeting
That is amazing.
and have some fun with it. Do you
yeah,
know
that's cool.
what's a residual value? What are our inception fees?
What does the
Out
term skate mean?
Yes.
Gates one of them. Yeah.
Oh man.
I go on and on and on. And actually, I found one and it was like 20 some odd pages long. And I actually shortened it to just 4 pages. Just
Wow.
to kind of get the juices flowing,
Mm.
and start with that. Hey, here's how we speak in the car business. This is car speak. And then, okay, what's that first week look like? Oh, let's sit them down. Let's look at these videos. Really? And then every
Right.
once in a while, you do the Hiawatha at them. Hey, how you making out with those videos?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
That's right.
And to that point,
Wish I could say I never did that.
Well,
but
we're
I did it.
We're all guilty.
We're all guilty.
All guilty. And I would say that let's call it really what it is. Salespeople, that are good at their craft typically get the nod and become, managers, right? They are not great. I'm not saying that there's not good ones out there that are good at developing human capital. They are out there, but they're far and few between. Most people that are at the desk are good at closing car deals, and that's why in a lot of cases people go, here comes that manager, he's going to come in and close the deal on me, right? But oftentimes I think that the close is it's a result. The heavy close is a result of a lack of really good training through steps 1 through 8. The last 2 steps of the closes, those manager TO and close, those are just heavies because we didn't develop the people in the process in the routine of what it looks like to do a good meet and greet, needs assessment, touch the desk, walk around, trade, demo drive, come back through service, do a nice intro, sit them down. All of those steps of the sale all tie together at building rapport. People like people that they like, listen, and trust, and that's the big takeaway. How do I connect with people? And so managers do the Hiawatha, like you said, and did you watch those videos? And that's not how you develop great talent. That's how you get people to do 5-car Fred and 6-car Sally's, which is the bottom churn we talk about all the time that we don't want. So anyway, I'm getting long-winded and taking away your time there, Thomas, but I'm pretty passionate about the people side of this business,
Yeah, absolutely. And that just one quick thing I want to jump in and I don't mean to interrupt you, Thomas, but so when we introduced you, we talked about how you kind of have your ear to the ground. You see what dealers are struggling with the most. Okay, so unprompted, we're going to kind of put you on the spot a little bit. It sounds like that recruiting may be a tough one, which you have kind of found a viable solution for, right? A good pathway with your methodology. And I want you to continue sharing that. But also, I want to put you on the spot. I mean, we need a top 3 here. What are the top 3 toughest things that dealers are telling you that they're struggling with? One of them being recruiting, right? And then what are the other 2?
People. finding the right people, getting them, like Kim mentioned earlier, putting the right people in the right seats of the bus. uh, I think, the struggle is not always, excuse me, the struggle is not always, uh, do I need more leads? What are you doing with what you already have? And conveying that message too. They always think, hey, I need more. I need to do a mail campaign or a Facebook campaign. Well, where are you? Where are you right now?
Mm-hmm.
What are we
Yeah.
doing with the customer? And I say this a lot. Remove the word lead from your vocabulary. That's a customer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I like that.
It's your virtual showroom. If you paid attention to that virtual showroom as much as you do to your physical showroom, you'll sell more cars. And Ryan, how many times have we had this conversation? If all I did was move that closing ratio another 4%, there's that 25 or 30 car deals that I can make.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
do I have the human capital to accomplish that? Number one, self-assessment's the toughest thing to do. And if not, then how do I plug and play someone, i.e., call Team 6,
Mm-hmm.
to help me do the heavy lifting, to help me grab that other incremental business that I'm currently missing? I think those are some items that are forefront. Admitting that you need help, because hey, we're men, we got lots of ego.
Mm-hmm.
We can do it
In the
all.
car business?
Never.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I like what you just said, Thomas. And we talked about human capital and the Great Resignation and more cars being sold today, and not the same amount of people, but the same amount as the COVID times. And so we've compressed the amount of people, and we're getting the leads, and then we have a thing we call lead bias, and it's hard to not have lead bias. But a salesperson or a BDC agent, if they're doing click to call through maybe whatever VIN or eLead or whatever they're using, they're looking at the customer and saying, I don't know, I called this guy 3 or 5 times, and they're still not responding. They're not buyers,
Yeah, boss, it's a bad lead. Kill it.
Bad lead, right.
We talked about that before.
Yeah.
I mean, I get told enough. I get told no enough throughout the day. This person's not really responding. Give me. That's why we live on the floor.
That's right. That's right. And so the salesperson or the agent is deciding for you with your money that you spent in advertising tens of thousands of dollars to generate those opportunities, and they're saying, I called it already 3 or 4 or 5 times. Give me a fresh lead. Today's lead's better than yesterday's, and the lead, from the right now is better than one from an hour ago. So what happens, and this is where we come into play too, like you just said, that's where the long tail follow-up out to 180 days goes, and that's what we find there's a lot of fruit, a lot of gold inside that bucket that a lot of stores just kind of, not to anything other than I don't have the horsepower in the human capital to chase a lead the way it should be for 180 full days.
Bro, they're done at 2 weeks.
They're done in 3 days. I would say even go that. I would 3 days. You're lucky you get that.
They'll pull up the CRM and they say, "Hey, I made all my phone calls. I've called this guy 5, 6 times, but you've called him at the same time every day.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you think?"
Great point. Great point.
Yeah.
I called her at 10 o'clock in the morning. Where's that customer? They're at work.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you should do a pre-call text.
There you go. Right. I like it.
That we do.
Right.
Yeah.
What
So
is the best-
Thomas, we got people, right? You're helping the dealership world solve the recruiting equation, right? And then reintroducing the humanization of the whole process, right? Because they're not leads, they're people. You're right. Everyone has a story, and it's your job to help relate and help them solve whatever the issue is that they're inquiring online, rather than just walking in, right? So you got those two things, but you got Jeff and Ken up in Montana opening up their stores. they hire Thomas to come in, right? And identify, because you talked about how bumping that lead, the lead close rate, right? That 3-4%. You're not going to go from 2 to 15 overnight, and it's going to be a process, right? So you're walking into a store, and they're trying to get a bump on their close rate. What's your first piece of advice? Where do they look first, or where do you look first, or where do you have them look first?
Well, some people may say, "Gosh, this is mean," but I take the bottom 20% and take them out. Take them out of that rotation to talk to internet customers. And I've done that more than once. And then I've instructed the sales managers that to say, once a salesperson figures out, okay, I'm not getting any more leads, and hey, how come? Guess who they have to call?
There you go.
Me. And then that leads into my coaching and how you, we could get them to look at the things that, someone like myself that looks at internet customers all day long, how to get better at dealing with that customer and building rapport and getting that customer in the front door.
Yeah, I like that. You kind of come in, stop the bleeding, so to speak, identify, the holes in the dam, right?
Yep.
Get that part to stop, so that stops the leaking out, and then train, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. And then part of that training is a one-on-one. Let's look at your last batch of customers and let's see where we may have missed something. And, same, I run into the same things. They call the same time of the day. If they come on shift early in the morning, they make all their phone calls in the morning and stop. There isn't a cadence to it. If I try them at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, they don't answer. Let me try them at 11:30 right before lunch. How about right after lunch? How about at 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, in the evenings? And then I also look at as part of my process, I pull up their Facebook page, their Instagram. Are you proud of the fact that you're in the automobile business, and are you screaming it at the top of your lungs?
Most don't.
Host don't. Yeah,
Right.
that's a great point. I mean, that is the personality of your store, is it not?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Are you in or you out?
Well, they got their toe in the water, but they've not jumped into the deep end of the pool. They're just testing it, and that's really, to your point, they're not fully committed. What does a fully committed look like? How do you close those gaps? And I think oftentimes it's a knowing or doing kind of an issue in most things I think that we do every day. And I think you eliminate the knowing by the training, and then either they come to work or they come to work to wait and collect a check. And those ones are the ones you churn out, but you try to hire the right people by doing it slow and understanding they're goal oriented with high expectations for themselves. They're students of the business and students of life. Tell me the last 3 books you read. What did you learn out of those books? And how you apply that to this business. I mean, questions that are off the. You're not going to be thinking about that stuff, but I think it does show a little bit of insight in terms of who you're talking to. I would say, if a dealer is let's say a owner of a dealership is a 10 out of 10. Let's just use that as an example. He's going to attract 10s. Does that make sense? And then you've got, let's say, not that he's not, but let's just say a general manager, maybe a 9.5, maybe a 9. And then you got a general sales manager, we'll say he's maybe an 8. And then you got a sales manager, maybe he's a 7. And then you got a bunch of salespeople who are 5s and 6s. Why? Well, unknowingly, they're trying to protect. It's kind of like they're insulating themselves to protect themselves for the future, And so what I always tell people is you want to get the 10s to do the interviews first, because 10s will recognize what a 10 looks like. And a 10 won't want to work for a 6 or a 7. A 10 wants to be stretched by someone like a 10. And that's why the owner or the general manager needs to be involved in first line interviewing, because they can see the talent. Even if you got a 5, getting him to be a 10 is almost going to be, he's going to double his capacity. I don't think it's even possible. Sometimes guys are hiring 3s and 4s, and then they double their capacity. Maybe they're 6s and 7s. They still aren't where they should be. Anyway, I'm ranting a little bit, but I think this says something about who we are, unconsciously when we do the hiring process. So what do? We say, hey, listen, Johnny, he's the sales manager. Go interview that guy out there, Tell me what you think. And if the guy is a 10, he's going to say that guy's not worth anything. That guy's a know-it-all or whatever, and he's going to end up not hiring him because he's trying to protect himself. So we end up hiring the worst of the worst instead of the best of the best. I don't know, that's a long story, but I think it's why it's important to have your top level guys, the 8s, the 9s, the 10s. They should be hiring, or they should be doing the interviewing too, and not saying, hey, give me the guys that are good. Give me. Let's mold it down. These 50 interviews. Here's the top 3. Well, in that top 3, really, you got maybe mediocre at best. Those 10s that were in there, they're never going to get to the top to meet that general manager because it's kind of protecting themselves.
That's kind of one of two ways that you can go with that, with regard to your recruiting profiles, and it has to do with programming or counter programming, because a lot of people I know of, and get your thoughts on this, Thomas. The two of the main conversations taking place almost daily now in dealerships all across the country have to do, one, with AI and the advent, and the development of that, and then secondly, used car acquisition, and how that the traditional models are not sufficient to provide enough opportunities for dealerships to be successful today, because the average age is getting older and older of vehicles that are in operation, so the trade cycle is being elongated. And with the supply dwindling of pre-owned cars out there, the traditional prices of used cars is going up because the price of new cars has been going up as well. So we're looking at private party acquisitions increasingly as a viable source for filling those gaps on the used car side. And I know that you and I, Thomas, are both participants in several clubhouse rooms where that is a topic on a weekly basis, and it's interesting that a lot of the most successful buy centers out there that dealerships are experiencing involve recruiting the people who they prefer to have in that profile somebody who's never had any car experience before. Whereas the traditional mediocre performer in terms of automobile sales on the sales staff is not doing well, because I guess that makes sense. If they're not talking to people and saying the right things and getting the right messaging, that's one of the reasons why they're not successful. Probably would not be successful in having the conversations on the other end. But they're purposely looking for people who have had no car experience. What are your thoughts on that, about how dealerships creating buy centers are having great success in acquiring these vehicles off the street?
Well, like any aspect of the car business, there needs to be a hard and fast process. And when you're onboarding that particular person, the process and what goes into the hiring and the training is a little different than your standard showroom salesperson. Ryan and I were talking about this earlier, that it's more of a passive sale versus a customer that's calling in and, hey, I see your car in Auto Trader. That's a lower funnel customer. An acquisition out of the service drive or an acquisition private party, those are not lower funnel, those are higher funnel. And he who keeps in touch with that customer long term is the one that's going to end up acquiring that customer and that car. I equate it to real estate, believe it or not. Which I've been involved in some real estate deals, and the the realtor typically says to the owner, well, what do you think your house is worth? Oh, I think it's worth $4 million.
All the money.
Oh,
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Of
it's
course.
like asking, so what do you want your monthly payments to be?
Or how much do you think your car's worth?
Right.
Asking the customer that.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think that that's part of the reason why that they're having great success with that, in part because, exactly to your point, what they're finding is, and I think this is interesting, even though I've got my car advertised for sale today on AutoTrader or Cars.com, or Facebook Marketplace, what they're finding is sometimes it takes up to 80 touches to be able to convert that deal to make an acquisition for the dealership, which is kind of amazing, all the way up to 180 days that they're making these longer tail follow-up processes. And you're right, I think that is probably a key insight as to what helps determine a successful profile if somebody is going to be able to do that, because they come into that expecting it. They come into that the way, and the way that they set up the compensation is that they don't hurt somebody for not getting a particular conversion that week or that day. So that's very important. And I think this whole this entire subject matter is extremely important for dealers out there. And hopefully if you're watching this today, as we grow our viewership, that you're able to find some key nuggets and takeaways on how you should position yourself for success with regard to being proactive and intentional about your recruitment methods on both sides, sales and service and team members. Like Ken said, you want to be able to have your most effective performers on the front lines and not have a decreasing graduating scale of performance and technical aspects, and improvement for those teammates as your leadership team gets closer and closer to the front line. That is going from a 10 to
Yeah.
and conversely, you're not going to experience a very good tenure if you have several 9s out there who report to a 6. I would really do some intentional evaluations of your teammates on that. I think you're going to be able to find some really cool things on that. So
we can be a resource for that. That's something that we do too, and in our consulting side of things, we'd be more than happy to. And Thomas too. There's just there is success leaves clues. I use that all the time in my life. I just say that because it's true. Successful things are duplicatable. It doesn't have to take 30 years to figure out the right way of doing something just because it took one guy 30 years to figure it out. That's why we have books today, and we're not. We're advancing every day.
Well, that's one of our our key core principles in this program, in the Mission Debrief, is just that. So we're going to move into the mission wrap portion as we close in on completing episode 4 here, and we're so thankful and glad that Thomas has spent his time with us. Ryan, I believe, as typically we like to do at this time, you probably have a viewer question emailed into us at intel@callteam6.com.
Yeah,
Thomas could share some insight on that.
Yeah, we do. It's actually for Thomas. Thomas's question is for you, but it's more on the consulting side, and the question is, there are a lot of consultants out there. How do I pick the best one, or how do I know I'm working with a good one? I think that's a powerful question, because there are a lot of people who go out there and say that just listen to me, I can, I'll get this done for you, I'll get that done for you. I think that's a great question. There's probably a lot of people out there who I know I want to know the answer, who might be looking for a little bit of direction in that area.
Well, it's the same thing I say about looking at software. Now you're talking about who do I pick as my I'm going to steal a term from The Godfather, my consigliere. Who's going to be that person, and obviously there needs to be some synergy between the two. Your thought processes need to be aligned, and your goals. It's like I had took on a group here recently, not recently, about 8 months ago, and the main corporate guy asked me, says, "Hey, do you have any? Can you send me over a copy of your agreement?" And I said, "No." And he said, "What do you mean, no?" I said, "I don't have any agreements. Mine is a handshake deal, and mainly because if I want to fire you as fast as sometimes you may want to fire me, that can happen." And I said, the only person that ever wins out of a disagreement on paper are the attorneys.
Mm.
So It's kind of my thing. And not only that, I always ask, just like I do if I'm looking at a new widget or piece of software, don't send me 5 or 6 people that they're going to rave how wonderful you are. Send me 3 or 4 people that canceled you in the last 6 months, and let's find out why. Is Thomas for everyone? No. And I say that because I might hurt your feelings. I'm going to tell you the truth, whether it's what you want to hear or not. Just had a conversation with a GM here recently, and I said to him, I said, how long has this person been in this position and in this job? Because I had asked a couple of questions and didn't really get the answer that I thought it should be. And he said, oh, it's funny you say that. And my first response was, no, it's not funny, because I picked up on something. This person hasn't been doing this job for very long. And it's only because of years of experience. And I always say, look, I'm not the smartest guy. I've just done it a lot.
Yeah, words to live by. That's for sure, and that's
Right.
that's what we try to talk about too. Is a lot of experience, both in success and sometimes
failure.
not and failure for sure.
What you learn in those times, right? That's what causes change.
Absolutely.
When you're going through the valley, that's when you have to figure out new processes, new people, new everything. So that's, again, that's where your biggest growth is for sure. When you're
Absolutely.
going through those deeper those valleys.
Well, thanks, Thomas. As we wrap up the mission wrap on today's program, that's all the time we've got for this time. And listen, Thomas, thanks so much for being on here and being with us and participating in this very informative episode. How can people reach you?
I'm not hard to find. All you have to do is Google Digital Car Guy.
Digital Car Guy, the OGDCG. I think that's your new URL.
There you go.
Nice and easy.
Yeah, right.
Well, we appreciate it, and thanks to everybody out there for tuning in. And
Pleasure.
yeah.
100%.
Yeah, Thomas, thank you so much. We look forward to having you on again really soon to bring everybody up to speed on what the latest will be at that time. And thanks everybody for tuning in. And real quick, thanks to Thomas and Digital Car Guy as our sponsor, and also Podcast Junkies, and then our excellent team here, comprised of Ben, our producer, and Daniel, our engineer. Hey
All
guys.
right.
What's
Thanks,
up, guys? Thanks, guys. Great show. Great show.
Thank you. You did a great job yourself.
Yeah, thanks, guys. We appreciate everything. You pulled off the technical aspects of bringing people from all across the country into the studio with us here today. We really appreciate that. Ryan, thanks again. We look forward to seeing you on the next one, and hopefully you'll be able to be here with us in studio.
Won't miss it.
All right, how can people reach us and watch our program?
That's right. So we're on social media: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You want to check us out on YouTube for podcast and Spotify. You want to get us there, and some of our latest clips you're going to find on TikTok. That's one of our favorite platforms. So you definitely want to check us out there. There's a lot of good content, and then if you need to reach us directly, it's intel@callteam6.com.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Ryan. Take care up there. Ken, thank you. Any words of wisdom on the way out?
Yeah, just, make every day the best day possible, because it's the only one you got in front of you, right?
Absolutely.
That's right.
Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you next time on episode 5 of the Mission Debrief, brought to you by your friends here, subject matter experts at Call Team 6, Special Ops for Car Dealers. Happy hunting out there. We look forward to seeing you all again real soon.